Welcome to the Circus of Values!
Alright, Jumpstart has officially hit Arena, and with it, a bunch of new awesome cards. The caveat being is that Jumpstart cards aren't going into Standard. Instead, they're going directly into Historic. So if you don't know, Historic is Arena's Eternal format, meaning you can play pretty much every card on Arena in Historic. You don't have to worry about if it's rotated out of Standard or not. If it's on Arena and it's not banned, it's probably playable in Historic. And that's actually really sweet, because that means once you build a Historic deck, you have it forever. It's not going to rotate out, it's not going to go away. This deck will be yours forever, and you can always play it. So Jumpstart not only had a bunch of new cards, it also had a bunch of really great reprints that it added to the Historic format. And one of the best of them is the king of value himself, Thragtusk. So Thragtusk is a 5-mana 5/3 beast, and when it enters the battlefield, we gain 5 life. And when Thragtusk leaves the battlefield, we create a 3/3 green beast creature token. So just on its face, that's a lot of value. 5-mana 5/3 body, gains us 5 life, which is great for stabilizing against aggressive decks. And then if our opponent kills it, or if we trade with it in combat, we get a 3/3 beast left over. But the real trick with Thragtusk, and the thing that makes him such a great value piece, is that his second ability, creating the 3/3 green beast creature token, that's not triggered on him dying, that's triggered on him leaving the battlefield. So if we have an ability that blinks our Thragtusk, meaning exiles it and then brings it back to the battlefield, we get to make that 3/3 beast token, we get to gain 5 more life, and we still have our Thragtusk. This synergy made Thragtusk a key piece of the most powerful deck in Standard way back in the day. Back then they used Restoration Angel to blink Thragtusk, but what we're using is Fassa, Deep Dwelling. Fassa, Deep Dwelling is one of the newer gods out of the Theros Beyond Death set. Fassa has a whole bunch of different texts and does a whole bunch of different things, but what's most important for us is that at the end of our turn, on every single one of our turns, Fassa exiles a creature we control and then returns it to the battlefield. That means if we have a Fassa and a Thragtusk on the battlefield, we can just be blinking that Thragtusk every single turn, making an army of 3/3s and gaining 5 life, and it's just really, really hard for any deck to race that amount of value. And a lot of the rest of our deck also benefits off this blink strategy, like Risen Reef, which is just a great end of the battlefield trigger, helps us ramp, helps us draw cards. Elvish Visionary, that when it enters the battlefield it draws us a card. Wall of Blossoms, which does the same thing as Elvish Visionary but is a 0/4 body, which is actually a pretty good defensive body against aggro decks. Arboreal Grazer, that puts a land from our hand onto the battlefield, which is pretty good because we have so much card draw, we can oftentimes end up with a lot of lands in our hand. We can use Arboreal Grazer to then ramp those out. We also have some interaction from cards that enter the battlefield, like Exclusion Mage. We can blink this over and over again to keep bouncing our opponent's creatures back to their hand. Baron, Tolarian Archmage, which does the same thing as Exclusion Mage, except we could also choose one of our creatures instead, and if we do that, we get to draw a card at the end of the turn, which makes Baron kind of a slow alternate blink effect. Like, we can play Baron, bounce our Risen Reef back to our hand, play our Risen Reef draws us a card, and then our Baron's going to draw us a card because we bounced a card back to our hand. So Baron can kind of pull double duty of being both an Exclusion Mage that bounces our opponent's creatures, and also he can be a value engine for us. We're also running one copy of Yorion. Yorion is a 5-mana 4/5 flyer that when it enters the battlefield, we get to basically blink our entire board. So if we start blinking our Yorion with our Thassa, that means we can blink our entire board every single turn, which is very, very powerful. That means all of our Elvish Visionaries are going to be drawing us cards, all of our Exclusion Mages are going to be bouncing our opponent's creatures, we can be using our Barons to bounce cards back to our hand, we can be using our Arboreal Grazer to put more lands into play, because really, ramp is the other strategy of this deck. Cards like Arboreal Grazer, cards like Llanowar Elves, cards like Growth Spiral allow us to ramp up to our 5-drops like Thragtusk and Yorion, and eventually ramp up to our big haymaker, Craterhoof Behemoth. Craterhoof Behemoth is a mythic that was put into Historic by Jumpstart. It's an 8-mana 5/5 with haste, and when it enters the battlefield, creatures we control gain trample and get +X/+X until the end of the turn, where X is the number of creatures we control. So if we play Craterhoof and we have an Elvish Visionary and an Exclusion Mage and just a few other dorks laying around, let's say we have 5 creatures on the battlefield including our Craterhoof, all of our creatures are going to get +5/+5 and trample, which almost certainly means it's going to kill our opponent on the spot. Our Exclusion Mages will be 7/7s with trample, our Elvish Visionaries, our little dorky 1/1s will be 6/6s with trample. It's just almost impossible to resolve a Craterhoof Behemoth and not win the game. And then one last bit of spice to our deck is Mirror Image. So Mirror Image is a 3-mana 0/0, but when it enters the battlefield, it can enter it as a copy of a creature we control. The worst case scenario, we can have Mirror Image enter the battlefield as like another Elvish Visionary to draw us another card, or another Risen Reef to get double Risen Reef triggers, or, you know, another Exclusion Mage to bounce something our opponent controls. But what we really want to do with Mirror Image is to like copy a Thragtusk, get a 3-mana mana Thragtusk, which is just ridiculous value, then we can start blinking both the Mirror Image and the Thragtusk with our Fassa or with our Yorion. And the absolute best thing that we can do is like play Craterhoof Behemoth. If our opponent somehow survives the Craterhoof Behemoth, which isn't impossible but unlikely, but if they do, we can play Mirror Image, copy the Craterhoof Behemoth, get a 3-mana Craterhoof, which is just ridiculous. So that's the idea of our deck, just a bunch of value, a bunch of ramp. We're looking at either outvaluing our opponent with a ton of Thragtusk triggers, or just killing our opponent on the spot after we've ramped up to 8 mana, and just playing a Craterhoof Behemoth, crashing in with our Elvish Visionaries and our Risen Reefs and our other dorks, and just killing them on the spot. In our mana base, we are running some rare lands, but just run as many of these as you got, and then run the common tap lands like the Gain Life lands or the Guild Gates to kind of fill in the gaps for whatever rares you don't have. I'd say the order you want to use these in is 4 copies of Breeding Pool if you have them, 4 copies of Hinterland Harbor if you have them. I only have 1, so I can't quite run it optimally here. And then probably Temple of Mystery after that, and then Papal Passage after that. But even without these rare lands, you can run those common tap lands, and it'll depower the deck a bit to have more tap lands in it, but it'll still be functional. You can still try the deck out, and you can see if you like it. So in the sideboard, it's a little hard to sideboard in Historic right now, because the format's kind of brand new. There was just a bunch of bannings of like the best decks in the format, so really I just kind of went with my gut on these. So we've got Healer of the Glade, which is great, because it can be an enter the battlefield ability for us to blink with our Fassa and with our Yorion in order to gain 3 life over and over again. And it's also an elemental, which means if we bring it in, it can trigger our Risen Reefs ability, which is pretty nice. So typically we want to be bringing this in against like mono red, mono black, aggressive decks. Soul Guide Lantern is some really great graveyard hate. We can go after our opponent's Uros with it, go after our opponent's Cauldron Familiars with it. Just in general, just great to bring in against graveyard-centered decks. Ether Gust to deal with any red or green permanent. This is like great against any ramp decks with like Nissas, or great against any like mono red aggro deck. It's just pretty versatile. So just a 2-mana answer for pretty much anything from a red or a green deck. Mystical Dispute, great against blue decks, or if we just really need to bring in a counter, if there's some, if there's some deck that we just can't answer something they're doing, we just need a counter against it, we can bring it in. But typically we want to just bring it in as a 1-mana counter against any blue decks. And then Reclamation Sage, we can bring this in against any deck that's built around like an artifact or an enchantment. So a deck like Wilderness Reclamation, or a deck like Aristocrats, so we can use it to blow up their Witches' Ovens. Just anything with an artifact or an enchantment that we want to blow up with Reclamation Sage is pretty great, because it's an enter the battlefield ability, so we can re-trigger it over and over again with our Fassa, with our Yorion. So it's kind of a repeatable way to blow up artifacts or enchantments. And so that's the deck. We're running 6 rares, 3 Thragtusk, 1 Yorion, 2 Barons. Barons are kind of replaceable if you just want to run Exclusion Mage, just don't want to spend the wild cards on Barons. Baron's better, but the Exclusion Mage can get the job done. But we're running 6 rares, 5 Mythics, 3 Thassas, and 2 Craterhoofs. So that brings us to 11 rares and Mythics, which is a little higher than we usually do the budget. We usually aim for about 8, but because this is Historic, because you have this deck forever, it's never going to rotate out, I think going a few rares higher is probably worth it to make the deck a little more competitive. But again, if you want to cut a couple rares, Baron's not absolutely necessary. He is really nice in this deck, but Exclusion Mage can be some interaction at an uncommon level if you don't want to spend the wild cards. So we're about to jump into some gameplay, but at the end of the video, I'll actually have a section where I talk about upgrades if you want to spend a few more rare or mythic wild cards. I'll talk about rares and mythics you can include in the deck to power it up a bit. Maybe you already have these rares and mythics in your collection, or maybe you want to spend a few more wild cards just to give the deck a little more juice. We'll talk about that at the end of the video, but for now, let's jump into the gameplay. So on to game 1. Alright, playing some blue-green Thragtusk Blink, and yeah, I mean, we'll keep this. We got a turn 2 Risen Reef. Can't ask for more than that. Our opponent did mulligan. That's good for us. We'll see what they're on. This is a little bit... We do have Wall of Blossoms if our opponent gets like super aggressive to slow them down. That's why Wall of Blossoms is better than most of these things that, like the Elvish Mystic that enters the battlefield and draws your card as a 1/1. A 1/1 body isn't really that significant most of the time, but a 0/4 can shut down aggro decks pretty well. So we'll see what our opponent's up to. We do have maybe a little bit more mana than we would want, but if we can draw into a Thragtusk or 2, we can make good use of that mana. Alright, well, yeah, I think we do Risen Reef. We could have also gone Wall of Blossoms plus another Llanowar Elves there, but I think we draw the card. Alright, so now if we draw a Thragtusk, we can have a turn 3 Thragtusk, which is pretty good, especially on the play. Alright, our opponent's on Sacrifice. Oh, and they missed a land drop. Well, that's good for us. Okay, we're going to go and grab an island. Play Elvish Visionary. Oh, I did that wrong. I should have played a land first. So, yeah, we're gonna get a little punish for that, because now we can't play the Llanowar Elves as well as their Wall of Blossoms here, but it's not too bad. Okay, Exclusion Mage isn't bad. If they Okay, Cauldron Familiar. Well, we can't really Exclusion Mage that, because they'll just sack it in response. Alright, let's draw some more cards. Wall of Blossoms. Can we draw... Okay, Craterhoof is pretty good. We can probably do that next turn, so what we're going to do is... Yeah, we're going to play this tapped. Go to combat. Attack with these two. Opponent's probably just going to block and sack, which is fine. Okay, opponent just lets it go through. We're okay with that, because that means they have to have another piece to actually set up their cat combo here. Although, I guess we actually just kind of have them dead next turn, so so maybe maybe it doesn't matter too much. Yeah, I mean, they gotta have something pretty good here. Citrus Supplier, sure. That's not gonna save you from a million damage coming across the board here. Opponent looks like a pretty typical sacrifice deck. Luckily, we're not super weak to that. I mean, it is bad if they go, like, steal our Thragtusk and sack it, but they can't do that with Claim the Firstborn. They have to actually use a, like a threaten effect, which is a lot less efficient. Wow, okay. I'm gonna sack into the Phyrexian Tower. Gutter Bones, and... okay. Yep, we're just gonna Craterhoof them. And opponent scoops it up. Alright. Yeah, okay, so our opponent is on Red-Black Sacrifice. I guess we go up to Soul Guide Lantern. It's a little hard to actually snipe the cat with that, but it's probably still worth it to get their Woe Striders and such. I guess Reclamation Sage is worth it too, to go after their ovens. And potentially, if they're also on green, we can go after their Trail of Crumbs. And potentially, Ether Gust is worth it too, although I don't think we're going to go up the Ether Gust here. So we're going to go down... I guess the mirror images are pretty easy to cut. Maybe an Arboreal Grazer, and maybe one Exclusion Mage and one Elvish Visionary, just kind of trim around the edges for the last couple cuts. Alright, and yeah, I mean, we're going second this time, which is a little sketchier, but we will keep this. We got turn 3 Risen Reef. Ooh, and Reclamation Sage to blow up that Witch's Oven. That's going to be really nice. So we're going to go ahead and get an island, I think. We do have some double blue spells in this deck, but no double green spells, so having one forest should get us most of the way there. Alright, they're just going to run out the Shield Breaker, sure. See, this is where Wall of Blossoms is pretty nice. We're going to be able to block this Shield Breaker pretty much forever. And next turn we can Reclamation Sage, blow up that Witch's Oven, and we'll be in pretty good shape. I think we're going to do that rather than Risen Reef, because I don't want to... Okay. Yeah, definitely now. Definitely now we're going to get rid of that oven. So... yep. Reclamation Sage, blow up the oven. Opponent can, like, sack the Shield Breaker in response. Alright, they are going to do that and to kill our Reclamation Sage. That's fine. Sure. Yep, we are going to destroy it. Still happy to get that off the battlefield. And this Wall of Blossoms is going to block the Mayhem Devil potentially forever. I mean, they can do something like attack and then sack the food, but if they really want to spend their whole turn just killing a Wall of Blossoms, we're okay with that. Yeah, okay. Looks like that's what they're going to do, sure. We're fine with that. They used their whole turn on that. We could run out the Fassa, but I think we're going to go Risen Reef. Yep. Put the Temple of Mystery into the battlefield. I guess we do keep the Baron. That's pretty good interaction. Then another Temple of Mystery. Baron on top, and pass turn. Yeah, bouncing this Mayhem Devil will be pretty nice with our Baron. Opponent Noxious grasps it. Okay. Sure. And runs out the Shield Breaker. A little curious why they brought the Shield Breakers in against us. I don't know if we ever showed them any artifacts, but we're gonna go... Yeah, we're gonna go Baron, bounce the Mayhem Devil, Breeding Pool tapped, pass a turn. And now we can pretty much bounce their stuff forever, unless they have a removal spell for this Baron. Yep, no blocks. Let's see what they do. Mayhem Devil, sure. Alright, well, we're going to play an island. We could run out Fassa here, but I think we're going to Yorion to actually put a clock on our opponent. Blink the Baron. And bounce the Mayhem Devil. And we can just do this forever and ever. Good old Baron. Yeah, and the Mayhem Devil comes back down, sure. Go to combat, attack with our Yorion. Play Llanowar Elves. Play Fassa. Breeding Pool tapped. Blink our Baron. Blink the Mayhem Devil. Yeah, and I'm liking where we're at. We've got our opponent kind of locked behind this Baron. They need to kill it so they can actually progress their board state. Okay, they're just going to keep recasting that Mayhem Devil. Calling him familiar, sure. But we do have enough pips here to start attacking with our Fassa. So we're going to go Risen Reef, see if we draw anything. Soul Guide Lantern. Okay, it's not the best, but we're not going to show it right now. We're going to go combat, attack, and attack. Maybe they'll chump with the Cauldron Familiar. If they do, then we can eat it out of the graveyard. Alright. They do not, but we can still go Soul Guide Lantern. Eat, I don't know, Embreth. Probably doesn't matter until we get rid of the cat itself. And, yeah, play an island and pass turn. Baron. Gonna put the Mayhem Devil back in their hand. And pass turn. Let's see what they got. Okay, cast the Mayhem Devil again. Second Mayhem Devil, okay. I'm gonna tap down the Cauldron Familiar, because why not? And do we want to... I think we're just gonna sack... We can't. We'll give them double pings if we do that. So we can't actually sack without losing a good part of our board here. So we're gonna play Growth Spiral. Forest, okay. Yeah, we'll tap down one of the Mayhem Devils. And tap down another Mayhem Devil. Go to combat. Attack with everything. And our opponent's... Okay, we're gonna pass the turn and blink the Mayhem Devil. What you got, opponent? We pretty much just Baroned them out of the game. They gotta have something pretty good here. Not to just die. We're talking like... Yeah, they don't have it. Alright, so, I mean, Sacrifice is a pretty legit deck, at least in Standard. And I think in Historic too. So, the fact that we were able to just so well kind of shut them down... It's pretty good. The first game was, you know, they didn't run so well in terms of mana, but in the second game we were able to blow up their oven, which kind of shut down a huge part of their combo, and then we were able to just keep bouncing this Mayhem Devil back to their hand every single turn by blinking our Baron over and over and over again. And we could have done stuff like blink Yorion, blink our whole board, and also blink Baron, but if we did that, then we'd have to wait for Baron to come back in the next end step, so I just wanted to keep that Mayhem Devil back in their hand over and over and over again to stop them from setting up, so instead I was just blinking the Baron directly. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't even close. We pretty much dominated it. And we never even drew our big finishers like Thragtusk and Craterhoof, so the fact that we were able to just kind of beat Rakdos Sacrifice by just using Baron and Yorion to kind of beat them down, it's pretty nice. So, sweet. Alright, playing some Simic Thragtusk against Unjustice, and we'll keep this. We've got our Boreal Grazer to ramp us into the Fassa. Mirror Image isn't doing a lot right now, but yeah, we're going to go Forest, our Boreal Grazer, put Temple into play. We don't want that. We want a little more high-impact cards than a Llanowar Elves, I think. Oh, okay, opponent's on Goblins. Well, we're going to Exclusion Mage. Exclusion Mage, get rid of the token. And no attacks. That's actually pretty good. Goblins, at least if it's the combo version, they want all the bodies they can get. Sky, okay. Well, we're gonna go Fable Passage, crack it. Island, Fassa. No attacks. Blink the Exclusion Mage. Put Chieftain back in our opponent's hand. Alright, and we're slowing our opponent down. Goblins is all about flooding the board, and then if they're doing the combo version, it's sacrificing all that to play a Muxus. So the more we can slow them down, the better. I think what we do here is just Yorion. I'm gonna go sacrifice Forest. I think actually we're gonna take one more turn before we Yorion. We're gonna go Wall of Blossoms, draw a card, Mirror Image on Exclusion Mage, bounce the Chieftain, attack for 2, and our opponent scoops it up. All right, so we just Exclusion Mage them out of the game that game. Okay, so our opponent is on Goblins. We do want the Ether Gusts. If they're combo Goblins, I don't think Healer of the Glade is actually very good. Usually against aggro decks we would bring this in, but what they want to do is like put a Skirk Prospector on the battlefield and a couple tokens and then sacrifice everything to put a Muxus into play and kill us with a big combo turn. So I think we don't bring the healers in, unless we'll see if maybe they're like a more aggressive version, and if they are, maybe we bring in the healers. But for now, we won't. We're just gonna go up the Ether Gusts and go down. Maybe a Craterhoof, maybe a Mirror Image, maybe a couple Elvish Visionaries, and run it like that. If we find a blue source, this is good. But we got a mulligan. We got a mulligan that. Alright, we'll keep this. I think this is definitely better. Go down to Craterhoof. Not going to need that for a while. That is our only Craterhoof, though, so unless we shuffle the deck. Yeah, this is a combo version of Goblins, so glad we didn't go up the Healer of the Glades. Do they have... Okay, Conspicuous here. They can't Muxus this next turn, at least. That's something. Go Island... Growth Spiral. Yeah, Growth Spiral. Put Fable Passage into play. Crack it. Go get an Island, and then next turn we can Baron. Start slowing them down a bit. Do a couple Wall of Blossoms after that. Okay, Instigator's not good. Now... Well, they still can't Muxus. But they're getting close. I guess if they want to cast that Ringleader, they could. They could go like sack everything, get the Ringleader. How did? Oh yeah, we shuffled. Okay, well there's Craterhoof. I'm gonna play Baron. Blink the Snoop, or do we blink the token? We're gonna blink the token and just get rid of it forever. Play a Forest. Pass turn. We will just trade our Baron with the Snoop this turn. Here's a Ringleader. Alright. Oh, they got nothing. Interesting. Okay. And we're going to go Wall of Blossoms, draw a card. We can get to this Thragtusk. Wall of Blossoms, draw a card. Come on, one more land, one more land. Yeah, okay, next turn we can Thragtusk. Play this tapped, and no attacks. If we draw a land next turn, we can actually go Risen Reef plus another Baron, potentially. Alright, well that's a little scary. So this is a little bit different. This might not be like a Muxus build. Fassa. We want a Fassa instead of Thragtusk. We're going to Thragtusk this turn. Give ourselves 5 life. And no attacks. And next turn we can Fassa and start blinking the Thragtusk. Oh god, another Ringleader. Okay. This time they drew 3. Ugh. Alright, so we're getting not too far away from dead. Okay, our opponent's going to start sacking things to play stuff out of their hand. We did gain 5 life last turn, though, so we're not super close to dead, but... They can't play, like, both of these Chieftains. Is that a Snoop or a Chieftain? It looks like... I guess that's a Snoop. Chieftain, sure. What else do you got? Nothing else, alright. Ooh, Risen Reef. I mean, the risky line here is to go, like, Risen Reef, try to hit a land, and then Baron, but I think we're gonna just Fassa. I don't know if they can beat us when we're blinking at Thragtusk every turn. This is a lot of life and a lot of 33 bodies. And if their goal is just to sack us out, it's not to like Muxus us and put, you know, 50 damage on the board out of nowhere. Maybe we can actually just beat them with some Thragtusk value. Oh, there's another Snoop, sure. He's snooping. Okay. Sure. Oh, land's good. So now we can go Risen Reef, and we can set ourselves up for this Craterhoof. Yep. Risen Reef. If we hit a land here, we got Craterhoof next turn for sure. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, we should be able to win this, and we'll attack with a Fassa. And good old Thragtusk has been pretty instrumental here. It's just put us so far out of the danger zone that our opponent really has no chance at all of actually killing us here. And I think this should be good. I don't think there's anything they can do. Even if they had some crazy turn where they played a Muxus and put a bunch of goblins on board, I think we could survive it and then just Craterhoof them back. Yeah, and they scoop it up. They didn't even see the Craterhoof, but we had it. Wow, so we just sort of dominated goblins. Like, game one, we just kept linking their lords back to their hand by just using Baron, or using Exclusion Mage over and over again, and they just weren't able to get back from that. In game two, it was a combination of Thragtusk, our namesake card, and Fassa just gaining us 5 life and making a 3/3 every turn. That was just too much for them to actually deal with. And I mean, we're at 28 life. We were about to play a Craterhoof that would have hit for an ungodly amount. Everything would have gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Everything would have gotten +10/+10 and trample on our board. So yeah, our opponent was super mega ultra dead, and they didn't even know it. But even without seeing the Craterhoof, they thought they couldn't just beat what we already had on board. So sweet, this deck seems pretty good. Goblins is definitely a legit deck in Historic, and we just kind of destroyed it here. Sweet. All right, up against Rodolfo Nunez, and I'm kind of tempted, but I think we got a mulligan this one. Okay, this is probably better than what we had before, so I think we go down Craterhoof, I suppose. Pretty far away from a Craterhoof, so I guess we got Wall of Blossoms plus Fassa, if that's good against what our opponent's doing. We'll see. Blue-green makes me a little nervous. Our opponent's like ramping into an Ugin or something. That'll be a little scary. Okay, we'll keep the land here. Best thing we could draw here is probably like a Llanowar Elves. Okay, yeah, our opponent does appear to be on Bant Ramp. Let's see what they got going on. I think we just Growth Spiral. Growth Spiral. See if we draw. Okay, we didn't. We were seeing if we drew a Llanowar Elves there, because if we drew a Llanowar Elves, we could have played it off the forest there. I think that's better than just playing Wall of Blossoms there. Next turn, we might just Fassa to try to get it around counters, although, I mean, if they untap and Elspeth Conquers Death or Fassa, that's really bad. We'll see. Wow, they completely missed on lands. Probably better than just Wall of Blossoms and nothing else, so we'll go with Fassa. While they don't have any counters up. I mean, if they Elspeth Conquers Death is here, that's really bad. But I don't know if we can do much about that. That's gonna get us no matter what we do. Golos. Oh, okay. Maybe they're not a Bant ramp deck. Maybe they're just a ramp deck. Sure. Getting Golos set up. Alright, we're gonna go Wall of Blossoms. Draw a card. Thragtusk is not bad. Do we want to Exclusion Mage the Golos? So they got green, white, blue, black. So if they have a red land in hand, they can activate Golos next turn. I think we're gonna, yeah, I think we're gonna bounce the Golos. I think it's better to let them recast it than it is to let them activate it, I suppose. It is bad because now they get to recast it and get like another Fill of the Dead or whatever out of their deck, but I think making them spend the mana to do that instead of getting to cast, you know, pay 7 just to play the top cards off their deck. Golos is definitely a problem for our deck. In the sideboard, we have Reclamation Sage to deal with them, but in the main deck, the only real interaction we have is bouncing, and that's just not good against Golos. This is definitely going to be a Craterhoof game for sure. They hit another. Sure, that's fine. They got all the mana they could ever want. Sure. The Growth Spiral and hit an untapped land. We could do that plus Thragtusk, but I think we should have played the Temple of Mystery this turn. That was a mistake. But we'll go Thragtusk. And no attacks. Blink our Thragtusk, gain some more life, make some 3/3s. we can beat the plan they have here. They're filled with the dead plan. If we draw our Craterhoofs, that's gonna be our game plan here. Yeah, just go in, just blink and Thragtusk a bunch of times isn't gonna beat this in terms of the long game, or isn't gonna beat Golos going over and over again the long game. So we gotta do what we can do here. I'm guessing they go and get another Field of the Dead. Yep, another Field of the Dead. Not sure anybody. They had Field of the Dead banned for a while, and for some reason they decided to bring it back. I don't know if anybody actually wanted that, but sure. And I'll eat one of the 1/1s. Forest. Okay, now we can Growth Spiral Forest into play. Yorion, blink, blink, and blink. So we can. I mean, we're gonna have a lot of value going here. What did I? Oh, I thought I. Okay, well, I wanted to blink the Exclusion Mage, but I guess I didn't click it. No attacks. That's a bit of a bummer. Yeah, we're gonna blink the Yorion. Yeah. So we should have had an Exclusion Mage trigger here as well to reset this Golos, but now we are going to have to deal with them activating their Golos, which is less than ideal. Well, let's see what they hit with their Golos. This is rough. Their Golos should be in their hand right now, but I just misclicked, I suppose. Let's see what they hit. Ooh, okay, just lands. One good land with Blast Zone, but just lands. That could have gone a lot worse. It's a fairy, okay. The Fassa? Doesn't really matter. We're gonna. I mean, either one they bounce. If we don't cast, okay, they're just gonna get rid of one of our 3/3s. That's okay. We can kill the Teferi next turn with our Yorion. Okay. Okay, I was gonna kill the Golos, but they thought better of it. Block, block, block. Okay, everything comes back into play. They're gonna be able to cast this Golos and activate it in the same turn, but I think we still keep bouncing it. Draw a card. Okay, Baron's not bad. Play Forest, play Risen Reef. I mean, we're just digging for our finisher here. Fassa. Oh, another Fassa, sure. Baron. Bounce one of the zombies out of the way. Sure. Arboreal Grazer. Okay, go to combat. So we just attack our opponent here. So, attack our opponent, but not with these. Yeah. They can double block one of the beasts, but that's okay. Okay, they're just going to chump a Fassa. And a beast, sure. Got him down to 11. Maybe we don't need the... Maybe we don't need the finisher. Maybe we can just kill him with value. I was thinking it's going to be pretty hard to outvalue triple Field of the Dead, but maybe we can just do it. Okay. Blink, 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 and that should be good. I guess we should have blinked Fassa as well. I mean, it's not going to be a creature anyway, but it would have made it untapped that way. Alright, Golos. They can also, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess if they have a land in hand, they might be able to activate Golos as well. If they've got all the colors, black, green, red, blue, white, yeah, so they can, if they've got a land in hand, they can activate Golos. If not, that's good. And it's still, I still think bouncing it's worth it, because eventually they're going to get to the point where they can activate Golos twice. And even though this is digging lands out of their deck, I still think it's probably worth it. I don't know. It's hard to say. At the end of the day, we're just trying to dig into our Craterhoof if we can. Okay, last Field of the Dead, sure. We should run some like Ghost Quarters or something to deal with the Field of the Dead. It's possible. It's possible that should be in our deck. Wow, okay. They didn't actually hit a land. Uro, sure. So they're not going to be able to activate the Golos this turn. Not bad. Alright, we will eat it and eat it. Everything comes back into play. We will put the Arboreal Grazer as the last, so when we draw cards we can maybe have a land in hand for him. Yeah, we're going to blink the Golos. Blink a zombie. Yeah, we'll put it into play, but let's try to crack it before we draw. Alright, and then we actually get to put an island into play too. Crack it. Within our deck a bit. Can we just kill our opponent here with our Fassa? So let's see. We can go to our main phase. How much mana do we actually have? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12? I think we can just kill our opponent. Yeah, so tap, tap, and tap. Opponent has no blockers, and our opponent is dead. Wow! I was thinking we needed a Craterhoof there, but we outvalued 4 Field of the Deads. 4! 4 Field of the Deads we were able to beat. Wow, I can't believe that. That's crazy. Well, we're going to bring in the Reclamation Sages. They really only have one target, which is Golos, but we're still going to bring them in. Mystical Dispute. I don't think so. Yeah, not much else. There's not like they use their graveyard much. Yeah, I think it's just the Reclamation Sages to go after their Golos. And we'll go down maybe a Mirror Image, and maybe 1 Elvish Visionary. Run it like that. Alright, game 2 against Rodolfo Nunez, and I guess we keep this. We have Temple of Mystery to scry lands out of the way, and also Wall of Blossoms as a redraw. Maybe we should have mulliganed this. I don't know. Okay, Craterhoof. I'm a little bit happier about keeping this now that we drew Craterhoof, because that is definitely a way we can beat this deck. This is why we have Craterhoof in our deck, because there's some decks where the Thragtusk value plan, even though it worked last game, in general, it's just not enough to keep up with what they're doing. So having a built-in sort of, no matter how big our opponent's board is, no matter how much value they've got, they're dead. That's basically what Craterhoof is. It's just a you lose button. Alright, Wall of Blossoms. We got a slow plan here. We can go Fassa into Thragtusk, but we have no ramp, so it's just going to be turn 4 Fassa into turn 5 Thragtusk, but that should keep us alive for a long time if our opponent doesn't have an answer to it. Hopefully we draw something to do next turn, so it's not just skipping our third turn. But our opponent doesn't have anything fast going on, which is okay. At least last game they didn't seem to have anything quick going on. Growth Spiral, sure. That's like the one blue spell. The one reason I was considering bringing in Mystic Sanctuary. Because of that. Okay, Llanowar Elves. That's something we can cast. So cast the Llanowar Elves. Breeding Pool tapped. That means next turn we can Thragtusk, and the turn after that we can Fassa. Because potentially we can go like Fassa plus 2 drop, so a little more mana efficient to do Thragtusk next turn. Let's see if they've got the Golos. They do got the Golos. Alright. Golos would be a fine card in the format, except Field of the Dead. That's... I don't know why they unbanned this card. I don't know what it really adds to the format. It's just this... kind of this inevitability that's costs nothing because it's part of your mana base. Alright, well, I guess we're Thragtusking. Thragtusk. Yeah, and our plan is just to Thragtusk until we Craterhoof. Just win the game. Next turn we are going to just go Fassa, though. Opponent can activate their Golos here, which could be bad for us. Alright, they're not going to activate. I guess they didn't have a land in hand. Alright, they got the mana next turn to activate. Explore, okay. Do they have a... yeah, now they got the zombies. Alright. We were going to get to a tackle next turn. Thanks to Thanks to them not having any zombies, because I don't think they would have traded their Golos, but it's just not meant to be. Alright, we are going to just Fassa this turn, I think. You know what? We're actually just going to Thragtusk again. Thragtusk. And no attacks. We're just Thragtusking like crazy. The one thing that would hurt us here is a Wrath, which they may have sideboarded in. I don't think Golos decks typically run them in the main deck, because they actually want their Golos on the battlefield. Okay, yeah, there's the Wrath. Yeah, maybe we should have Thassed. I mean, we still got the Beasts, though. They had to kill their own Golos to do that. And, Beast plus Craterhoof is still going to be lethal. But that was something, that was a reason we maybe should have played Fassa. Okay, Migration's passive. They're going to get some zombies here, sure. Wow, they're all out of, well, better to be, lucky than good, I suppose. Drew our last Thragtusk. And next turn we can Craterhoof, right? We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I guess next turn we can Thassa, and the turn after that we can Craterhoof. Yeah, we lost our Llanowar Elf, so we actually went back a mana. Opponent's considering whether to chump or not, and taking this thought very seriously. Okay, they're gonna chump. Alright. Here comes Thragtusk part a million. How many Thragtusk can you deal with, opponent? Do you have another Wrath? Golos, alright. Golos does dig another Feel the Dead out of their deck. Making more zombies, but we just need to fade a basically we just need to fade a Wrath one more turn. If we can fade a Wrath, which they do have basically draw 3 with this Golos, so they might have the Wrath, but oh wow, another Feel the Dead. Okay, okay. Alright, well we're gonna go Fassa, Wall of Blossoms, draw a card, and no attacks. Blink the Thragtusk, go up to 40 life. We got game next turn. Do they have the Wrath? Or have we just outvalued Golos? Let's find out. Alright, what you got? Ooh. Okay. We can deal with this. And they're they're drawing to see if they hit the Wrath. Sure. Making more zombies. They can give them all haste too, but we got 40 life. We're nowhere close to dead. Alright. Teferi bouncing our, I don't know, probably one of our tokens, I guess. Elvish Rejuvenator, more zombies. So their plan is, I'm guessing, just to make as many zombies as they can, and then play the Kenrith, give them all haste, and try to smack us in the face for a bunch. But we got 40 life. It's going to be pretty hard to actually kill us this turn. And if they don't kill us this turn, we've got Craterhoof lined up for next turn, and they're tapped out, so they're definitely going to die. They have the ability to draw here, but okay, put it to the bottom. Play the Kenrith. Minus the Teferi to bounce, I'm guessing, a token. Yeah.
Don't worry, I got this.
Sure. Kenrith gives everything haste. More zombies. Okay. Block, 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 and block. And we got 40 life. I do not think this kills us. I didn't do the math, but 40 life is a lot. Alright, down to 12. And that's what we call a good game. Woo! Right back at you, opponent, and wow! We just crushed Field of the Dead. This is one of the top decks in the format, and we just annihilated it in both games. I mean, it's not even like they stumbled either. They had exactly what they wanted both games, and we just took them down like crazy. Sweet. Wow. Alright, playing some Simic Thragtusk. We cannot keep this. Too many islands. Alright, that's not so bad. We will keep this. I think we go down one of the growth spirals. Good card, but I think we want to have this Wall of Blossoms in case we're up against an aggressive deck. Alright, doesn't look like a particularly aggressive deck. Could be another ramp deck. We'll go down the Exclusion Mage. Temple Garden, there's kind of a few different ways it could go. It could be like a Bant ramp deck, or it could be like a green-white counters deck. There's Historic's kind of wide open. It could be a lot of different things. Scavenging Ooze. Alright, well, we don't really use our graveyard all that much, so we're okay with this. I think we owe... Huh. Yeah, we're gonna Growth Spiral. Island. We wish we had a forest there, because if we could have put a forest into play and also played our Llanowar Elves, that would have been really nice, but... C'est la vie. Okay, it is a counters deck. Alright. Okay. They didn't at least have the really good 2-drop. Yeah, I think we're just gonna save some life here. Go Wall of Blossom. See if we draw a forest. Oh, we did. Nice. And Wall of Blossoms. Draw another forest. Alright. Play Wall of Blossoms, and yeah, now we've got their offenses blocked by these Wall of Blossoms. Next turn we can go like Llanowar Elves plus Fassa. Start blinking our Wall of Blossoms for some value. Hell Collector, alright. Yeah, we are going to go Hinterland, Harbor, Llanowar Elves. I guess we could have actually Growth Spiraled plus Fassa, which is probably better. But this is fine too. We'll blink the Wall of Blossoms. We're not running Uro because, one, it's a mythic. And we are a budget deck, but two, it's kind of boring. Like, everybody runs Uro, but it's kind of funny that Scavenging Ooze would actually be really good against an Uro deck. Ooh, Bastard Ket, interesting. Okay. I haven't really seen Bastard Ket used, but it seems pretty good here, because it's going to put a counter on Pelk Collector and also Wildwood Scourge. So, block and block. Take two. Alright, we're going to Growth Spiral, see what we draw. Just another Llanowar Elves. Put Temple of Mystery into play. No more lands. We're good on lands, I think. Forest. Llanowar Elves. Llanowar Elves. And now we're just, I mean, if we ever draw our big finisher, our Craterhoof, we're just going to win the game on the spot, more or less. I'm just going after our graveyard for no real reason. Sure. I guess we attack the Bastard Ket.
This is getting rough.
Draw a card. Ugh, another island. Well, if we need to, we can start using our Fassa to tap down their attackers. So, worst case scenario, we have a way to kind of slow them down even more. Yeah. Do they have something else to put on Pelk Collector? Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah. Wildwood Scourge is getting big. Pelk Collector's getting big. Do we just throw one of the Wall of Blossoms under here for some life? I guess we do it under the 6/6. That makes a little bit more sense, doesn't it? Alright. Can we draw... Our Burial Gracer's not what I had in mind, but it is a card we can play. Island. Island. And pass turn. And at least we can start tapping down their creatures, I suppose, with Fassa. So... not all is lost. Fassa is pretty good. Come on, Craterhoof. Well, Thragtusk is a good draw, too. Not exactly what we wanted, but it will definitely stabilize us pretty well against what our opponent's doing. The Great Henge. Oy, okay. That's kind of scary. Oh, gosh. Branching Evolution. Alright, so they are all set up here. They're going to be making giant creatures, have tons of card draw, gain tons of life, so... we gotta kill him here pretty quick before it gets completely out of control. Okay. Alright, we're gonna tap down the Pelk Collector, tap down the Wildwood Scourge, and let our opponent do what they're gonna do. We're just gonna take 4 this time, that's fine. We want to keep at least one of these walls. Alright, we're gonna go Risen Reef. See if we can draw into our... okay. Well, you know what? We're a Thragtusk deck, so this is what we came here to do, isn't it? And we do get to tap down, too, which is pretty nice. So, no attacks. We're going to actually... we're going to blink the Thragtusk. Yeah. I think just to get ourselves out of the danger zone a bit, we're going to blink the Thragtusk. I almost wanted to blink Risen Reef there to just keep drawing for our Craterhoof, but I think Thragtusk is fine. Putting some bodies in the battlefield, getting our life back up, that's okay. Opponent's just going to scale completely out of control here, though. Like, we cannot keep up with what they're doing in terms of just making 33 beasts to try to deal with how many counters you're going to get. Yep. Getting big. What do you got, opponent? First to Rowan games. Interesting. Alright. Haven't seen that in Historic, or even much in Standard, but pretty interesting. Yeah, we're going to tap down the... sure, the 6/6 Trampler. We can just chump the Wildwood Scourge, so... Yeah, we're just going to chump this with the Grazer, I think. We really don't need a Grazer. He's done his job. Another Thassa is really not what we wanted, but, oh. Thragtusk. I think now we're going to start blinking the Risen Reef. We've stabilized quite a bit. We should be fine in terms of not dying. So I think we just want to try to draw into our Craterhoof now. No attacks. Blink the Risen Reef. Try to draw some cards. There he is. Good old Craterhoof. Alright, we should have the game next turn. So we're going to tap down 2 of their creatures here. Inspiring Call. Oh god, okay. I get to draw a new hand, essentially. But our Thassa tapping down their creatures is going to serve twofold here. It's going to serve to, 1, make sure we don't take all that damage. But 2, it's going to get blockers out of the way so our Craterhoof can come crashing through and end the game here. Okay.
This is the yield of our crop.
Oh, Conclave Mint. Okay, hopefully this doesn't mean they have enough power and toughness to survive. I mean, they're going to be making so many counters. Wee. Kind of scary. Alright, let's see what they do. We want them to attack, so we have to think about how we're going to block here. Sure. And another Wildwood Scourge. Yep. Alright. Okay, you know what? We're just gonna go ahead and tap so we can pass through this. All these triggers. Well, hopefully we don't die now. Okay. We do have to chump, so we're gonna chump the Wildwood Scourge. The 46/46 is a concern. Do we have enough mana to tap it down and... Oh, we can double Craterhoof. Alright, that should do it. This is the combo. Mirror Image plus Craterhoof means we win. Oh, look at that. Alright, I think we're a little bit bigger than our opponent now. Alright. Wowie zowie. Wowie zowie. Even with their 46/46, I don't think they're living through this. Wow. Okay. That is the combo right there. Just a minus 112 life, you know how it is. Alright, so our opponent went big, but we went a teensy bit bigger. Alright, so our Simic Thragtusk Blink deck felt pretty good. We had a lot of value, a lot of life gain to stabilize against aggressive decks, and also we just had this built-in, like, I win the game button with Craterhoof Behemoth, which we were able to ramp to pretty consistently, and once we hit this, we almost always just won the game the second we played this. So having this combination of being able to outvalue a lot of decks, out-life gain a lot of decks, and also having this sort of I win strategy that against decks that might be outvaluing us is just a really powerful combination. This deck felt very good. We ended that last match a little early just because it ended on a really awesome note, and there were 2 more games after that. We actually did end up losing the match, but they were just games that went on forever, and it was just us basically flooding both games. We just couldn't find anything to do. Our opponent couldn't really kill us fast, so it was like 30 more minutes of games that really weren't that exciting to watch. So yeah, I just decided to end on a high note, because really I just didn't feel like editing those 2 games. They were just long and boring and didn't really add much to the video, so we just skipped them. But now we're going to talk about potential upgrades for the deck. So first and foremost, going up to 4 copies of Thragtusk so we can always hit it would be pretty nice. We could go up to like 3 copies of Baron and go down an Exclusion Mage, maybe a couple copies of Yorion in the main deck if we wanted to keep him in the main deck. We could also potentially run Yorion as our companion. I didn't want to run Yorion as our companion with our budget deck because the inconsistency really hurts you when you have a bunch of uncommons and commons in your deck. If you can just load up your deck with a bunch of really powerful rares and mythics, then it really doesn't matter all that much that you have 20 more cards in your deck. But with us, when we only have 3 copies of Thragtusk, 3 copies of Fassa, and we really need these cards to function, going up those extra 20 cards was pretty bad. But if we spent enough rares and mythics that our deck was kind of homogenous and just had a lot of power no matter what we drew, then putting Yorion into our command zone over here and running 80 cards would actually be pretty good, and we would always have like a blink effect sitting over in the command zone. That's an option you could potentially go for if you feel like you do have enough rares and mythics to really power up the deck, but otherwise you could just add another copy of Yorion in the main deck and it'd probably be pretty good too. Spark Devil would be really fantastic in this deck because it's sort of like a better version of Mirror Image. Mirror Image makes a copy of a creature we control, but Spark Devil does that and it makes it non-legendary, so we can have a copy of our Fassa Deep Dwelling, so we can have 2 Thassas on the battlefield, one of them non-legendary, and we could be blinking multiple permanents per turn with our Thassas. That'd be really powerful. We could make another copy of Baron and have them both on the battlefield at the same time, so when we're bouncing stuff back to our hands, we get to draw 2 cards at the end of the turn. It still has the same tricks as Mirror Image, where we can like make a copy of our Thragtusk for reduced mana cost, or make a copy of a Craterhoof for reduced mana cost, but it's just sort of a better version because we do have these legends. It's just sort of a better version of Mirror Image, although Mirror Image is an uncommon and Spark Double is a rare, so if you're on a budget, Mirror Image is fine, but I'd say Spark Double is probably just straight up better, and there's some really ridiculous plays, you know, like having double Yorions on the battlefield, having double Thassas. Just, we have enough mythics in our deck that Spark Double is significantly better than Mirror Image. The Cavaliers would be great blink targets, specifically Cavalier of Thorns I think would be pretty good in our deck. Cavalier of Thorns ramps us up, gets us closer to our Craterhoof Behemoth, and also it's a pretty great defensive body. Just a 5/6 reach can really stabilize the board, and it has the problem where if our opponent kills it, we get to pull something out of our graveyard back to our hand, so it's just a really tricky threat to get around, really great blink target. But Cavalier Gills is also really good. One, it has 3 pips of Blue Devotion, which means it turns on our Thassa pretty well, and also every time it enters the battlefield, we get to Brainstorm, which can be pretty powerful, especially because we do have like Fable Passages to shuffle the deck, which is what you want to be doing if you're brainstorming. But even just entering the battlefield and brainstorming over and over and over again is really good. And again, it has some additional upside if it ends up dying. So these are both great cards. Just some more threats for us to ramp into with a lot of good value attached. And there's one card that fits really well in our deck, but it's just kind of boring, and that's Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. It's just, it clearly fits well in our deck, right? It has a good end of the battlefield ability. It also ramps us towards our Craterhoof. It's something, it basically can serve as both a ramp spell and also a in-game, because if we get our graveyard filled up, we can just get this back and kind of kill our opponent with it. Like, Uro is just ridiculously good, right? It's the most played creature in Standard, it's the most played creature in Modern. Like, clearly the card is really good. So if you want to slot in Uro, I'm sure it'll be just fine. It's just kind of boring with everybody else playing it, but yeah, you can. It's definitely going to be good, and I mean, getting to ramp and life gain and have an in-game threat all in one card, it's just hard to beat, right? So it slots right into our deck if you feel like you want to run it. And lastly, like always, if you got some castles, slot them in. Castle Garenbrig in particular I think is really good. It can get us to Craterhoof a turn earlier than usual. We have a lot of green creatures we can spend it on. We have a lot of force in our decks. It's pretty free slot in. Castle Vantress as well is, you know, we probably want to run at least one of them in the deck if we can. This deck is pretty good at ramping, and at least in its current build, with us not having that many rares and mythics, we sometimes just couldn't find our rares and mythics, you know, our build-arounds like our Thassas and our Thragtusk. So having Castle Vantress kind of dig through our deck a bit more to find our rares and mythics would be pretty nice. But yeah, just slot in. I'd probably slot in like a couple Castle Garenbrigs and maybe one Castle Vantress and try it like that. Castles are pretty much always good, but in this deck in particular with all of our ramp, I think they'll actually be pretty good. We should get a lot of good use out of them. And anyway, that's going to wrap it up for our Thragtusk Blink deck. Historic is a really cool format. Standard is kind of in a not so great place right now, so it's nice to have another format to go to, especially one with all these new cards coming in, tons of new decks to build. So I hope you enjoyed watching, because I sure enjoy playing, and I'll be playing more Historic soon. And yeah, this has been 2D, and I'll see you next time.